What's up guys, PerfEV here with a do-it-yourself video. Doesn't have anything to do with performance EVs, but it's something that a lot of people seem to struggle with. How to remove stubborn brake rotor bolts that have been in there for, since the vehicle was purchased. If you know anything about this, which is probably why you Googled this video, they're notoriously hard to get out because a lot of times they're rusted. And they're brake parts, so they're put on real tight. They're rusted, they've never come off. Like a lot of times you'll change your pads, but not necessarily the rotors. Not all cars have them, but some cars like Hondas have these bolts that hold the disc rotor onto the rotor hub. I'll show them to you. I already took two out. So here's what we're talking about. So this is the rotor, which needs to be changed. It's been on this car for 100,000 miles, 100,005 miles. So, for a long time, almost 7 years now. This is 2012. So these are the ones that I'm talking about right here. This one and that one. And I've taken out the other side. So these are out. And it's usually the first thing you want to do. Because if you can't get these out, you need to change your plan. You can't proceed with the job. So don't bother doing anything else. All right, so how do we get these out? We're gonna need some tools. We're gonna need some very specific tools because you need the right tool for the job. If you have the right tool, it's very easy to get these out. So what do we need? We're gonna need our hammer. This is kind of like a cool, hammer that's sort of meant for automotive use, I guess. I really like the way it feels, again, for working on cars. We're gonna need our driver. This is sometimes sold as a pinhole driver. It comes in a set usually. And you can see that I've taken out the one that was in here. And the reason I've taken out the one that was in there is it doesn't really matter what position it is in the kit. What you want is for it to be basically the same diameter as the bolt. So you can kind of see that this is perfect. You don't want to be bigger than the bolt because then we're gonna hit this hard with the hammer, right? So if it's bigger than the bolt, it's gonna hit the rotor, and we don't want that. If it's much smaller, it could deform the screw head, and we don't want that either. So we want it to be basically the same diameter as the screw head, the bolt head, right? So, and then we need a manual impact driver. This is key right here. You need to have the right head for it too. A lot of times this comes in a kit. You want to make sure that it's the one that has the best possible grip. We're going to be hitting this with a lot of force, so this is very, very important. All right, so here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to take our driver and position it as such, right over the screw head. And then we're going to give it a good whack. I think that's pretty good for that one. And we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to place this right over the screw head. And then, oh, so you got to wear protection. So now, let's try to take this bad boy out. Put our impact driver in. There it goes. There it is. Look at this bad boy. So, 100,000 miles. Gonna save these, put them back on, but yeah, that's how you get them. The last one came right out, no problems whatsoever. Here they are, the 4 of them. All this was just preparation. I watched a bunch of videos, did some research. I've seen the wrong technique. A bunch of people like drilling the screw heads out, the bolts. That's a chop job. Don't do that. It's very, very easy. I've never done this before. I just got the right tools, the right technique, which I just showed, and they came right out, no problem whatsoever. Easy peasy. You just gotta know what you're doing and have the right tools. You gotta have the impact driver. You gotta have the driver to hit it, to loosen up all that rust from, you know, the years and the thousands of miles, the tens, and in my case, 100,000 plus miles on those original bolts, which are, you know, exposed the elements, a lot of force, tightened down quite a bit from the factory because, again, they're brake parts. So basically worst case scenario, and came right out. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Like, subscribe, hit me up in the comments. Very important piece of info. I recorded this after I shot the previous video. Why you want to use an impact driver. And the reason is, you know, you can try to get that off manually, because if you try too hard, you can strip the head and then you're in trouble. Then you're gonna have to drill them out, and I don't know if you're comfortable doing that by yourself. But with this, because you're hitting this with a hammer, you're basically putting maximum force into the screw head. So the chances of you stripping it are basically zero. It happens if you don't do the preparatory step that I showed, where you use a hole driver, but really any driver. You can use an extension from your ratchet wrench or whatnot. Anything that will basically tap that really well to break loose all of that dust internally and break some of that friction, so that when you do use your impact driver, instead of stripping anything, it just comes right out. But again, this is, you're hitting it with a hammer inwards into the head itself, and at the same time you're twisting it very little just to break it. That's what this does. So this is critical, and this is what makes it so easy. These are 19 millimeter bolts, which hold the caliper bracket onto the brake rotor. And these are, you know, these are really, really tight. But this is what you do. What you need is leverage. So when you have leverage, you know, a seemingly hard job becomes easy. And there we go, one-handed while filming. Not a big deal, easy peasy.